Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another live streaming. Just making sure that everything is working all right with the audio and the video. If you are joining now, please feel free to say hi. Let me know where you're from. And obviously, feel free to leave any questions at any time in the live chat. I'm going to pull it while I'm live. I'm going to answer all of your questions. So today is the first episode of a new series here on YouTube. It's a new live series on music theory for guitarists. So we'll be talking about everything music theory, okay? We'll be going through the music notation. We'll be taking it very slow. We'll be taking it very easy so that even beginners can follow that. And we'll be talking about how to find the names of the notes on the fretboard, all this kind of stuff. And we'll be reaching even how to build a major scale and some basic chords on guitar. Okay, so this is literally a lesson for very much for beginners who might be interested in learning more about the music theory on guitar. Okay, so what I'm assuming when when you start playing guitar is just that you know how to name the open strings. So literally the only thing you need to know is it's E, A, D, G, B, E. So just the names of the open strings. Obviously, if you tune your guitar every time that you practice, you more likely have already learned that, or in general, just take a note and make sure that you learn them in this order: E, A, D, G, B, E. The other thing that you want to be aware of is that although we name them from the top, we are actually counting them from the bottom. So we are actually saying that this one here is the first string and this one on top is the sixth. Okay, so that's what we want to remember to make sure that we are all on the same page. That said, we are ready to start and start learning a few music theory things that we can apply on the guitar. So I'm gonna hold the guitar all the time because we're gonna check on the fretboard where you can find all of the things we're gonna talk about tonight. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the music alphabet. The music alphabet is when you play. I'm gonna grab a pick. It's when you play A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So basically, we use 7 letters, the 7 letters of the alphabet, the first 7 letters of the alphabet, to name the notes in music. Okay, so we only need 7 letters. Plus, we'll be needing other, other symbols like the sharps and the flats. The sharp and the flats are symbols that we are going to add to the letters to make sure that we are on top of all of the notes on the fretboard. Okay. So what you want to know is that in between each letter of the music alphabet, as we said, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you're going to have a space. You're going to have something else in between, another note, basically. So between A and B, for example, you're going to find another note. And how are you going to count that note? How are you going to name that note? It's going to be named either with a sharp or with a flat name. We're going to see that in a minute. But before that, we should say that there are 2 places where you don't find any other steps or any other note in between, any other sharp or flat. And these spaces are after the letter B and after the letter E. So the easiest way to remember that is thinking about the word be, like to be or not to be in English. If you think about B, B-E, after these 2 letters, you're not going to find the sharp, you're not going to find the flat, you just go to the following letter. So after the letter B, you go to the letter C. After the letter E, you go to the letter F. You're not going to find anything in between. That said, we are ready to start, and we'll be using, for the first example, the A string. So we should all be comfortable with saying that the string that I use here, my 5th string, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is going to be the A string. So because it's an A string, I can consider I'm starting my journey through the music alphabet from the very bottom, from the first letter that I've got available, which is A. Okay. And what am I gonna do next? I'm gonna consider this almost like the ground floor of a building, or you might even think about a staircase where we are going to build all of the steps one by one. And all you're going to do, if this is the A, which is the open string or fret 0, if you like, you just go then to the first fret here, okay, on the A string with your first finger, and you're gonna find here the first note with a sharp. Because we said between the letter A and the letter B, you're gonna have a sharp. So you're gonna say that this first fret here, it's called A sharp, okay? Now, after the A sharp, you keep moving and you find the following letter, which is B, okay? So you can say that the second fret on the A string is called B, just because you are following the 7 letters that we said, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, counting in between all of the letters, one more note which has a sharp name, okay? Until we find the B and the E letters. As we said, we are not going to find any sharps there. So far I found the letter A, open string, the A sharp, the first fret, and the B on the second fret. I'm already at one of those points, one of those places where I'm not going to find another sharp after that. I just move to the next fret, naming it as the next letter. So instead of saying B here, after saying B here, I'm going to say this is a C. So on the fret number 3 of the A string, you're going to find the C. Now, this is a very early stage, but I can already say that the more you be practicing this, the more you'll be finding references on the fretboard, which will make sense, and suddenly you will realize why we call, for example, some chords with those names. So if you know that this is a C major chord, okay, you might already have realized now that the ring finger is playing the fret number 3 on the A string, which we just realized, we just found out together, it's actually called C, okay? For that reason, when you play the C major chord, this is your root note, and this should be the lowest note that you hear, unless you're playing inversions, but we'll be talking about that way later, okay? So far, let's recap the notes that we found on the fretboard. We played the A open string as a ground floor, as a starting point of our staircase. Then we went on the first fret and we said this is called A sharp, because between A and B we do have a sharp name. Then we found the letter B, and after B we don't have any sharp name, therefore on fret number 3 I will be playing a C. Okay, so this is my C. After the letter C, I keep going with the following letters, but again, between the letter C and D, I will have another sharp name. So after the C on fret number 4, I will have a C sharp, okay, which is the note in between the C and the D. So between C and D, I find the C sharp. And after the C sharp on fret number 5, I find the D, okay? So I went from fret 3, which is a C, and fret 5, which is a D. In between, I had a C sharp, okay? So now it's time to introduce why these sharp notes actually have a double name, okay? So if I'm looking at it, if I'm looking at the fret number 4, which we just said it's called C sharp, and if we look at it from a C perspective, so coming from C, I'm just raising the C. So I'm going half step higher. We'll explain what a half step is. So basically, every time I'm going higher than, if I want to say higher than, I will use the symbol sharp, which looks like a hashtag, okay? So if you're familiar with the hashtags, that's the symbol for the sharp, okay? So what you're gonna do, coming from C, going to the next note, you are raising the C, therefore you will say C sharp. But if instead you are starting from D, which we already found on fret number 5, and we go backwards now, so we go half step lower, we go to the previous fret, more likely you're gonna call this note D flat. Flat is the other symbol, the other alteration that we have. It looks like a B, so the symbol looks like a B, which comes from bemolle in Italian or bemol in Spanish. And basically what you're gonna do, you're gonna say this is a D, but I go lower than D. So lower than D is D flat. Higher than C is C sharp. It just depends on which direction you're moving. However, you can call that note however you like it. So you can say that the fret number 4 is called either C sharp or D flat. That's exactly the same. So we call this thing in music enharmonic sound. Enharmonic sound is when you've got two names for the same sound. Now, historically, this comes from a very old story which says that basically originally C sharp and D flat were two different sounds. So at the moment, right now, in our music system, which we'll be talking about in a minute, we do have two names for the same sound. So C sharp and D flat are exactly the same sound. You're just going to have two different names for them. Okay. So at this stage, very early stage that you're getting started with the music theory, you can decide whether you want to call this note C sharp or D flat, okay? As well as you can call this, the first fret that we found here, which we named as A sharp, you can either call it A sharp or B flat for the same reason. It's completely up to you. Later on, when you will be studying harmony, so you will be starting putting together all of the notes to make some chords and studying the relationship between the chords and the keys and the degrees that they represent in music, then it will not be the same whether you call a note C sharp or D flat, not because of the sound will stay the same, but harmonically they will have different functions, okay? They will represent something different, whether you call it C sharp or D flat. But at this stage, don't worry about that. Just call it either C sharp or D flat. Just call this note either A sharp or B flat. It's exactly the same thing. Okay, so if we keep going, we were on the fret number 5 of the A string and we found that this is a D. Okay, I keep moving to the fret number 6 and I can obviously say D sharp. But because the fret number 7 is going to be E, I can come back to the fret number 6 and also call this E flat. So it's up to you once more whether you want to call the 6th fret D sharp, so higher than D, or E flat, lower than E, okay? Then the fret number 7 is E, and E is the second letter that we named at the beginning as the letter which doesn't have the sharp after it. So after the letter E, I will move to fret number 8, where I find the F. We said after the B and after the E, you just go to the next letter, so you don't find any sharp note. So if I was on fret number 7, which was E, I will now move here to fret number 8, and I will say this is my F, okay? There's no E sharp, okay? Now, from the letter F, I keep going, and now I do find a sharp note, so fret number 9 will be F sharp, okay? And because the fret number 10 will be G, the following letter, I can come back to the fret number 9 and once more say that you can call this note either F sharp or G flat, okay? Then after the fret number 10, which was G, I will find once more a sharp note, an altered note, which is going to be called G sharp, okay? Now, here is something very interesting. Once I reached the G sharp, I basically ended all of the 7 letters because I did A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and even G sharp, which is going to be the alteration after G. So what happens after that? Because we have no other letter that we are going to use, the following fret, fret number 12, which on most guitars will have 2 dots to find this out quicker. So you should be able to find it on your fretboard quite quickly. This is going to be called A again. So this has the same name as the open string, okay? We started from the A and we reached the A after 12 half steps, after 12 names, okay? So you can imagine that as a staircase, but also, if you like, as a circle, okay? As a circle, meaning that when you start from A, you go through the circle for 12 steps and then you're back to A again. But this works from any other note. So if you start from any other letter of the music alphabet and then you walk through 12 half steps, you are back again to the same name, just 1 octave higher. So I can say the fret number 12 on the A string is called A, and the only difference between this A open string, fret 0, and this A fret 12 is that this one is 1 octave higher than the previous one where I started from. Okay, now because the fret number 12 is called A, I can now go backwards and say that the fret 11, which I called G sharp, can also be called A flat. And here I ended all of the names of the notes in the music alphabet. Okay, so now we'll be reviewing all of them, keeping in mind that we did use 7 letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and between each letter, I used a sharp name, except for B to C, which didn't have anything in between, and E to F, which didn't have anything in between as well. Okay. Now, all of the sharp notes that we found 5 sharp notes: A sharp, C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp, can be called also with 5 flat names. You're going to have 5 flat names for the 5 sharp notes as well. So the A sharp can be called B flat, the C sharp can be called D flat, the F sharp can be called, the D sharp first can be called E flat, the F sharp can be called G flat, and the G sharp can be called A flat. Write them down, it's going to be the easiest way. That gives us 12 notes. So we're not going to find 17 notes because the 5 altered notes have 2 names but 1 sound only. So we say 7 letters plus 5 notes, not 7, only 5 notes with a sharp or a flat, therefore 12 notes. That's all you need. You need to know that you have only 12 notes. Now let's go through them again quickly. Open A is our starting point. We said fret number 1 will be the first sharp note. So first fret is A sharp or B flat. Second fret is going to be the next note, B. Therefore, you can go backwards and say that this one can be called A sharp or B flat. So far we did A sharp or B flat, B. Next note, no sharp, because after the B there's no sharp, it's a C. Next note, C sharp or D flat. Next note, D. Next one, again, fret number 6 will be a sharp name, D sharp or E flat. Fret number 7, E. Here's the second spot where I don't have a sharp after it, so I just go to the next letter, F. Okay. After the F, another sharp, fret number 9, F sharp or G flat. Fret 10, G. Fret 11, G sharp or A flat. Fret 12, and back to A 1 octave higher. Do you have to remember all of them by heart? Absolutely not. You just need to remember A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you need to remember that in between each letter you have a sharp or flat name, except for B and E, which they don't have any sharp name. That's all you need to remember. Then with the practice, you remember what's the order, what's the distance between them, why you need to know them, and how you use them, and where you can find them on the fretbook. Okay, so I use the A string because it's named A, but you can start from the E, you can start from the D, you can start from anywhere you like. Okay, it's not going to affect this whole thing. It's going to be exactly the same, just from a different starting point. Okay, that's what I want you to remember for the music alphabet. So we learned so far what's the music alphabet, the 7 letters plus the 5 sharps and flats. What's the meaning of these sharps and these flats? Now, the thing that we got all together, when we put these 12 notes all together, like I did here, is already something that we call the chromatic scale. Now, the chromatic scale is the first scale that you need to know, not because you need to play it or practice it or because you will ever use it when you play, but because it gives you the knowledge of the music alphabet, it gives you the knowledge of the notes, and it helps visualizing the fretboard slightly differently, okay, with more confidence. That's what I mean. Therefore, okay, the first scale that you know, the chromatic scale, can start from any note you like. It can start from the A, and it would be what I counted. It can start from B, from C, from any letter really, and you follow exactly the same order, and after 12 steps, you'll be back to the starting point, okay? So the chromatic scale, it's that scale which contains all of the 12 notes that we have in our Western music system, okay? What we are based on is this Western music system made by 12 notes, okay? That's what we really want to remember. It doesn't apply the same everywhere in the world, okay? But in Western music and in general in Western world, this is the way you count the music, the way you divide 1 octave, so the distance between the first day and the second day that we played here, in 12 notes. Now, these 12 notes that you found, which all together make the chromatic scale, have the same distance, okay? And this is the really important thing. Now, this distance between them is 1 fret on the guitar, okay? And it's called half step or semitone. So if you say one semitone or one half step, that's exactly the same, and it is the distance between any pair of notes that you have, any adjacent pair of notes that you have on the fretboard, okay? So if I go from A to A sharp, from A sharp to B, or from B to C, from C to C sharp, this is all half step every time, okay? And it's very easy to visualize on the guitar because it's literally only one fret apart, okay? If you had a keyboard, if you look at a keyboard, that would be the same with white and the black keys, okay? Between a white and a black key, or between two white keys without the black key in between, that's half step as well. That's a semitone, okay? But let's stay on the guitar. It's the distance between one fret and the following fret, half step. Now, if I go from C to D, for example, that's not half step anymore because I'm going 2 frets apart. And when it's 2 frets apart, 2 half steps together make one whole step or one tone. So if you say one tone, that's the same as 2 semitones. One whole step, which is the same as one tone, it's the same as 2 half steps. So C to C sharp is half step, C sharp to D is another half step. Therefore, C to D, it's one whole step. Okay, so that's what we use as units when we count the intervals. So the distance between a note and another note, we use half steps and whole steps. These are our units, and the smallest unit we'll be using will be one half step. Okay. That's what we want to know, because very often when we'll be talking about music theory in this new series online on YouTube, this live series, we'll be very often naming, half steps, whole steps. We want to be sure that we know what they are. Okay, that's the first thing. So this thing will help you to potentially find any note that you are playing on the fretboard. What's it called? So you can say, okay, I'm playing this note here just randomly. Okay, wherever you like. And you are able, with this thing that we just explained, to find out what's the name of that note. This doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be extremely quick at finding it, okay? You might be slow, okay? This might take some time. You might have to, go one by one through all of the steps, through all of the frets on that string, but you do have a method. That means that you can find what's the name of the note, what's the name of any note you're playing on the fretboard. With the practice and continuing with this series, you'll find more and more references on the fretboard, which will allow you to be way quicker. But let's do a couple of examples, okay? Let's say I'm on the first string, which is called E, and I want to find what's the name of the fret number 4 that I'm playing here. One method is, with this thing that we said, this chromatic scale, I start from E. What is there after E in this chromatic scale in our Western music system? There is an F, because after the letter E, we said there is no sharp. But after F, there is an F sharp, or G flat. Then on fret number 3, there is a G. And therefore, the fret number 4, which was our goal, is going to be called either G sharp or A flat. Okay, and you found the name of it. Now, this wasn't super quick, okay, because again, you don't have enough references yet to find this name sooner, but it's still a method which works anywhere you are. You want to find what's the name of this note, you can do it, okay? With a little bit of practice, you won't have to count it and you will say that's an F, but for now, you will have to count it this way. Does it take time? Yes, it does. You might make a mistake. You have to go through mistakes. You have to question yourself. You have to get a random string, random fret, and ask yourself, what's the name of that note? Let me use the chromatic scale starting from the open string, okay? Then later on in this series, we'll be looking at all of the references you might have on the fretboard to actually find all of these notes much sooner, much quicker, okay? But for now, just get started from the open strings, start from there, and make sure that you continue with this method, okay? With these half steps and whole steps thing, based on the A, B, C, D, E, F, G music alphabet and the 5 sharp flat names, okay? What is next? Once you have clear what a half step and what a whole step are, and what they represent, and how you can count it on the guitar, on the fretboard of the guitar, you are already able to learn another skill, which is a skill where everything is based on in terms of harmony, in terms of music theory, which is the major scale. Now, most of you will already know the major scale. They've heard it, they probably sang it, they probably played it, or they've learned in school without probably remembering that it's actually called the major scale. It's that thing that everybody knows as C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. That's the sound that you probably are familiar with. That's the major scale, okay? Or if you named the notes as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, you used to call them as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, which is exactly the same as C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, it's exactly the same. If for any reason you're from a country where you learn in school the names of the notes not as A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you can still apply anything we said so far. You would just have to convert this A, B, C, D, E, F, G into La, Si, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, okay, which are exactly the same names for A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's up to you. I leave it to you because you will have to learn it in English. That's just because anything you're going to look for online or on books or anywhere really will be called with these names. So just make sure that you are familiar with the English notation A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay, and all of the sharps and the flats, okay. In English-speaking countries, when you learn in school this do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, the C is actually turned into a T, so you might have heard this thing as do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay, but it's exactly the same thing, okay? We're just talking about C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, B, A, G, F, E, G, C. Okay, if you can sing it, even better. You start learning, not that I can sing, but you start learning the sound of the intervals, the sound of the notes within a scale, okay, which is something very important as well. So why do you need the major scale, and how do you play, how do you learn the major scale? You need the major scale because this already maps the fretboard differently from what we did so far and starts giving you some knowledge of the intervals, which is really important. Intervals are just, the distance between the notes. So when we want to make this do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, or C, D, E, F, G, A, B, which is basically the major scale, we are following a formula, okay? The formula is made by either whole steps or half steps, okay? This is also called a diatonic scale. Now, when I'm doing C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, okay, the formula that I get is whole step, half, and then whole step, half. Let's say this again. Twice whole step, and then one half step, 3 times whole step, and then half step, okay? Or tone, tone, semitone, then tone, 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 semitone will give you the formula on which it's based, this music scale. What does that exactly mean? That you can start from any of the 12 notes of the Western music system. Let's say that we start from C, okay? And then we go to the next notes. There will be 7 in total because we have 7 notes in the major scale, differently from the chromatic scale, which contains all of the 12 notes. The major scale will only have 7. And these 7 notes are obtained doing what? One interval between the first and the second note will be one whole step or one tone. We already know this on the fretboard is going to be 2 frets. So I'm going to do C to D, okay? C, D. From D, I will go to the next degree, which is degree is just the name that we give to all of the notes of the scale. So we go from the second to the third note with another whole step. So from D, I go to E because one whole step we know is nothing but 2 frets. So E. So far I found C, D, one whole step, D, E, another whole step. And now I get half steps. So I go from E to F because after E I've got no sharp. So E to F. From F I continue with another whole step. So F to G. Okay. From G another whole step. G to A. We learned that we go G, G sharp, A here. From A another whole step will bring me A sharp, B. And then from B, if I didn't make any mistake, the last interval of half step will bring me back to C 1 octave higher. So again, I went from one C, but that was just an example, to another C 1 octave higher, playing a series of intervals, whole, whole, half step, whole, 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 half step, which led me into the first major scale, played all on one line, played all on the same string, okay? What do you have to learn here? You don't even have to learn the actual scale C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You actually have to learn only the formula. Because the formula, once you know it, once you know whole step, half, then 3 times whole, and then 1 more half, will give you the chance to play this major scale in any key. So starting from any note on any string, okay? If I start from a random note, this is an F, but even if I didn't know that that was an F, I can just play the same scale doing the same series of intervals, okay? And literally, I can do that from any note. I'm just following the same series of half steps and whole steps, okay? That's what I want to say. That's why you really desperately need to learn the formula and not the names of the notes. Although, in particular, in the key of C major, when you play the C major scale, that's only made by 7 letters with no sharps and no flats. But this only applies to the C major scale. So as soon as you bring this formula to other keys, you will have to implement, you will find basically notes with sharps or flats, okay? And we'll be talking about this in the next episode. But for now, let's just learn the formula, okay? That's all you need to remember for now, and you can already play your scale. Now, in order to visualize that better, I played this, you know, on the same string. But if I don't want to play it on the same string, I can play it more vertically, just moving some notes to the next strings. But this obviously involves that you're really quick at finding the names of the notes on the fretboard. And you can do C, D, E below, F, G, A below, B, C. I'll come closer to the camera just to play this scale in case you want to practice this and you want to learn it with this fingering. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then you come back. This will already give you a lot of references on the fretboard, and one pattern which doesn't include open strings and therefore can be moved in any other key. Let's say I move it from C major to D major, and I can just play, although this involves an F sharp and a C sharp, but it doesn't matter for now. You'll be able to play the same pattern just in another key. You want to move it again, move it in E. Obviously, you can start from any sharp or flat note as well. I want to start from C sharp, fret 4, same pattern. Okay, that's why you really want to be strong with the theory, because once you know the theory, you can play so many more things much quicker, much sooner on the fretboard. Okay, so it's really something that it is theory, but it's something that you put in practice very soon. Okay, now the scales, and in particular the major scales, are one of the most important topics that you might want to go through when you learn the basics of the music theory, which is what we are talking about tonight. But there is another big topic that you might want to start getting into, which is basic chords. Okay, and basic chords, I mean, we'll be talking about power chords tonight and a few other basic chords like triads, major and minor triads. Now, we're not going to go through intervals yet because it's too early. We just learned, you know, the music notation and how to find the names of these notes on the fretboard. But we can already say that when we play basic chords, like for example the power chords, we are using only a couple of notes. Okay, so power chords for that reason are not even real chords, because a chord should be made by at least 3 notes. For example, the triads are called triads because they use 3 different notes. Okay, a C major or a C minor triad, an A minor chord, a G major, an F major. These are all chords made by 3 notes, and we'll be seeing them very shortly. But if I say power chords, C power chord, what is this power chord? Power chord, first of all, are some basic forms of chords, not even chords, just 2 notes together, that you find very often in rock music. Like if I play something like, all these chords that I've just played are power chords, okay, and they're only made by 2 notes, very often played with this palm muting technique. Now, what are these 2 notes? The first note is called root, and it's basically the note which is giving the name to the power chord that you're playing. So if I'm playing a C power chord, I'm talking about the note C. And the other note that I have is the 5th. What is the 5th? The 5th is nothing but the 5th note of your major scale. Because we already found the major scale as C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, we can count now which one is the 5th. C, D, E, F, G. This one is my 5th. Okay, so the 5th is the G in the key of C. So if I play a C and a G together, this way, with any fingering you like, this is a C power chord. That's why very often you find the C power chord notated as C letter followed by the number 5. To remind you, it's just the root and the 5th, okay? We'll see that this is actually called a perfect 5th, but it doesn't matter now. So C5 is the notation for C power chord. Is it the most correct? No. We should say C omit 3 would be seeing Y shortly. It's related to the triads, but it doesn't matter. I just want you to know that if you go online and you find G5, C5, whatever 5, that means power chord, only root note and 5th. Okay. And the way you play is finding the root note wherever it is, and then going to the 5th, which is always going to be on the string below, 2 frets forward. So if you play the C, it's going to be like that. If I start from G, which is up here on fret number 3 of the E string, I go to the string below, 2 frets forward, and I find G power chord this way. Okay, I go to, I don't know, F, first fret of the E string, 1 string below, 2 frets forward, I find the 5th. This would be the shape that you can apply to any power chord with the root on the E or the A strings. Okay, so these are the most basic chords that you can find. You can already play songs with them, and you can already get into a more rock attitude with them. You can already play a lot of stuff with them, and they're just 2 notes together. Now, is this the only way of playing them? No, because there is another way, which is root 5th and repeat the root 1 octave higher. When you call the root 1 octave higher, you say that's the octave. It just means it's the same note, it's another C. Does this mean that we are playing a chord made by 3 notes? No, the notes are still 2, the root and the 5th. The next note that I'm adding here, it's another root, just 1 octave higher. So effectively, the different notes that you have are only 2, C and G, the root and the 5th, and you're only choosing whether to repeat the C or not. Even if you repeat it, that's still a C power chord, okay? That's how it works, and it's the same in G, any other key. Okay, so that's what a power chord is. Then what is after a power chord? If you keep working on the chords and the way you build chords, you get into triads. Triads are the most basic chords that you can find because the power chords we explained are not even real chords. So the triads can be, different types of chords made by 3 notes. Mainly we divide major, minor, augmented, and diminished. We'll also find other triads called sus4 and sus2. If you play some guitar, from time to time, you might already have found like a D sus2, a D sus4, an A sus2, an A sus4, stuff like that. These are still triads, okay? If you want to know more about the sus chords, the difference with the add chords, and so on, I will put a link in the description and also a card if you watch the replay of this live stream to my full lesson on sus and add chords. That's basically everything you need to know about sus chords, all of the theory behind them, but also all of the shapes you need on the guitar. It's about a 15 or 16 minute long lesson, but it's really worth your time because you will be cracking all of the shapes you might need for the sus chords on guitar. Okay, anyway, back to the triads. The triads are made by 3 notes. Now, these 3 notes are always 1, 3, 5. What is this 1, 3, 5? The first, the third, or the 5th degree of a scale. If it's a major chord, it's the 1, the 3, and the 5 of the major scale that we learned. If it's a minor chord, it's the 1, the 3, and the 5 of a minor scale. We'll be going through all of these scales and all of these chords in the next episode. But what I want to anticipate here in this first episode of this new Music Theory for Guitarists series, is that if I want to get a C major, rather than just getting the C, the root, and the fifth G, in between I will have another note, which is E, because E is the third note of your major scale. C, D, which we skip, E, F, which we skip, G. Ba, ba, ba. These are the three notes that you find in a C major, okay? That's what I want you to remember. Then we'll see the difference with a C minor and with all of the other triads and how you move these triads in different keys, how you count these intervals. Okay, but for now, you just need to know that the major and minor chord are triads made by 3 different notes every time. Okay, now the distance between these notes will be explained better in the lesson about the triads. But for now, let's just say that we are always going by thirds. By thirds means that if you start from one note, C, you go to the third note from the C. Okay, so you're skipping the second note. C, D, you're skipping D and you go to E. From E, you skip F and you go to G. That's the meaning of going by thirds. And this kind of method, going by thirds, is basically what we apply in all music theory, okay, all the time, when we want to learn how to make any chord, how to build any chord, even with 7s, 9s, 11s, any extension you might want to learn. Okay, so that's something that we need to learn from the very beginning. Okay, this is going by thirds, C, D, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, then I only want to go through one last thing, which is, well, if I play a triad and it's made by 3 notes, what is this? When I play a C major and I'm strumming all of the strings, when I play a G and I'm strumming all of the strings, these are still triads, okay? Because if it's just a major chord or a minor chord, like A minor, these are triads. It doesn't matter that you on guitar are strumming more strings. The notes that you find in that chord are only 3. And if you are strumming more strings, that means that you will repeat one of those notes, one octave higher. That's all you're gonna do. I'll show you this example with the C major because we said that the C major is made by the notes C, E, and G. Now, if I play a C major position that most of you will already know, a C major has C, E, G, the 3 notes that make a C major, another C, another E. We are only repeating them because in order to strum the strings and create some rhythms, it wouldn't be too easy to mute the strings that we don't want here at the bottom. So I just decide to repeat the notes of the chords 1 octave higher and I get this, and I can strum all of the strings. Okay, but effectively I'm playing a triad because I'm playing only 3 notes. Okay, C, E, and G to make a C major. I counted the notes starting from this C. I hope it makes sense for everybody that if the root note is here and I don't want to play an inversion, I'm muting the 6th string. So make sure that if you're playing a C major, guys, you keep your thumb here and you mute the low E string. You don't want to play this, okay? You want to play this. You want to strum all of the strings but making sure that this one gets a muted sound, that you don't get an E on the bass, okay? Which would be something different. It's an inversion we'll be talking about way later on in this course, okay? So yeah, this is all about the basic chords, power chords, and basic triads that you might want to start looking at right now at this early stage of the music theory. Later on, when all of these intervals and all of the music alphabets and everything else will make more sense to you, we'll be going deeper into the chords, deeper into the intervals, and we'll make sure that you can apply, that you can bring these chords, this major, minor, sus, the power chords in any key. Okay, but for now, this is all you need as an introduction. Okay, so I'm happy that we managed tonight to go over, you know, the music alphabet, the meaning of the sharp and the flats, but also what is a chromatic scale, how you can find the notes on the neck on any string, although that might take a little bit at the beginning, but you get quicker and quicker with the time, what a whole step and a half step is, and also what is a major scale, how you create that, how you build it, how you write it down, how you play it, and what are the basic chords as power chords and some triads, okay? This is all I wanted to talk about in this first episode of this new series. This new series about music theory for guitarists will be entirely live. So feel free to join me every week for a new episode. We'll be going through more and more theory, always slightly more advanced, for guitarists, meaning it's music theory that you can apply on the guitar immediately. So I'll be keeping the guitar here. So yeah, if you play another instrument, you can still follow the lesson. But if you're a guitarist, that's more helpful because you'll be seeing all of this theory applied to the guitar, applied to the fretboard. So all this will make sense, and hopefully at some point, suddenly, all of the things that you've been playing will have a sort of light up, and you will realize why you've been playing something that way, how you can maybe improve the sound of something, just applying some easy music concept, music theory concepts to what you're playing. Okay, so if you're interested in music theory, first of all, feel free to share this live streaming with any other guitarists that might want to get into music theory as well. Let me know in the comments below if you do have any questions, okay, about the things that I went through in this live streaming, or if you have topics that you would like me to talk about in the next few weeks, in the next episodes of this series. Also remember that because this series will be live every week, I'll be able to answer your questions. So if you do have questions, just pop up every week when I'm live, and make sure that you ask your questions in the live chat, so I will be able to reply to you while I'm live and we can interact, okay? If you haven't done it yet, make sure to subscribe to this channel. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll be able to receive a notification just before I'm going live, so that you won't miss the next live streamings, and you'll be able to ask any questions you might have while I'm live. Okay. Also, you might want to follow me on Instagram. You will find the link in the description below, because on Instagram I'm uploading other content that I don't upload here on YouTube, and I do other live streamings on similar topics, on some music theory, R&B guitar, and so on. So if you're interested in that, you might want to follow me on Instagram as well. But yeah, this is it for tonight. I'm going to wrap it up here, but thank you so much for watching this live streaming. Remember that you can watch the replay if you are interested in going over some of the things I talked about tonight. And remember that next Tuesday, as every Tuesday, my next video here on the channel will be up, and it will be the episode 4 of the series that I have on acoustic, R&B, and neo-soul guitar. Many of you asked me about how to strengthen your fingers to play hammer-ons and pull-offs, so basically this kind of exercises. So it will be a full lesson on that, with lots of exercises that you can practice to strengthen your fingers when you play R&B guitar and play all of the embellishments that we play on these chords. Okay. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching this live streaming, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll be seeing you soon. I'll be seeing you next week with the next videos.